Many women look into the mirror and see only the passage of time, but rarely do they recognize what time has gifted them in return: a face shaped by wisdom, eyes that have witnessed life, and a presence that no longer needs to prove itself. We live in a world where beauty is too often defined by what is visible, and yet the greatest beauty is often felt, not seen. It is the sense of peace someone brings into a room. It is the quiet grace in how they respond rather than react. It is the calm voice that speaks not to impress, but to connect. You may think you are no longer beautiful because you compare yourself to a younger version of who you were. But this comparison is both unnecessary and unwise. Why? Because real beauty matures. Just as fruit ripens on the tree, just as light softens at sunset, just as the earth deepens its colors after the rain. In today's talk, I will share with you 12 clear signs that you are, right now, a beautiful, attractive woman, even if no one has told you lately. These signs do not depend on cosmetics, clothing, or compliments. They emerge from your way of being. And once you learn to see them, you will stop chasing beauty and begin embodying it. Let us begin, not by looking outward, but by turning inward, by pausing and listening, because the truth is, you already are the woman you've been trying to become. Now we simply remove the layers that made you forget. Let us begin with stillness. In the quiet moments of life, early mornings when the world hasn't fully awakened, or evenings when the air is thick with silence, there is a beauty that arises, unforced. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't require applause. It is simply there, breathing with you, radiating outwards like a calm pulse. This beauty, though not always seen with the eyes, is deeply felt by those around you. It is the beauty of inner stillness. Many women move through life unaware of the effect they have on others, not because they lack beauty, but because they do not understand the power of their own calm presence. Inner stillness is not passive. It is not withdrawal. It is the conscious decision to remain rooted in yourself, even as the world changes around you. And for an older woman, who has already witnessed the waves of life crash again and again, this stillness is not only magnetic, it is healing. When you have walked through decades of living, there comes a point where you no longer need to speak to be understood. People can sense you. The way you carry your silence, the way your eyes stay still even when someone else is unraveling, the way your breath stays deep and slow while others race ahead. Neuroscience now confirms what ancient wisdom has long known: calm is contagious. Your autonomic nervous system, responsible for regulating heart rate, digestion, and emotion, responds directly to the calm or chaos of another person's presence. This is called co-regulation. When someone is dysregulated, anxious, reactive, or agitated, they unconsciously look for another nervous system that is more grounded to stabilize them. Think about it. Have you ever walked into a room and felt soothed just by sitting next to someone who said nothing? That was their stillness regulating your body. Now ask yourself, how often do you give yourself the credit for being that person? You may not see it in the mirror, but when you've trained your mind not to jump, your breath not to race, and your voice not to escalate, you carry a presence that is rare. And rarity is what people truly find beautiful. This kind of calm is forged in experience. A woman in her 50s or 60s who has experienced betrayal and forgiven anyway, who has weathered loss without becoming bitter, who has faced uncertainty without panicking. This woman wears stillness like a crown. Not because she was born with it, but because she earned it. Let me share a story with you. There was an elderly woman named Eiko who lived in a small village near Kyoto. She was known not for her appearance, but for how people felt after speaking with her. Strangers would leave her presence lighter, as if some burden had quietly left them. When asked what her secret was, she simply smiled and replied, "I listen to people without carrying their noise into my heart." This is inner stillness. This is beauty that heals. In relationships, especially romantic ones, this quality is vital. A woman who radiates calm provides what few people know: they are seeking safety. Not the kind of safety that shelters you from pain, but the kind that allows you to be fully yourself without fear of judgment. This is the root of deep emotional connection. And it is a kind of beauty that doesn't fade. It grows more radiant with time. Eastern philosophy often speaks of the unmoved mover, the one who influences the world without being consumed by it. This is the woman who doesn't chase validation, who doesn't over-explain herself, who can say no without guilt and yes without fear. She moves like still water, clear, deep and steady. In her presence, men soften, children settle, friends breathe easier. But how does one cultivate this stillness? It begins with the breath. Modern research in physiology shows that deep, diaphragmatic breathing, especially inhaling slowly through the nose and exhaling even more slowly through the mouth, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the body's rest and restore mode. It slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and most importantly, restores a sense of inner control. When you practice this kind of breathing daily, especially in response to stress, your body learns to hold peace as its natural state. Posture, too, plays a powerful role. An upright, open posture communicates confidence to the brain. Amy Cuddy's well-known study on power poses demonstrated that standing or sitting in expansive positions for even 2 minutes increased feelings of confidence and reduced stress hormones. Imagine, then, the lifelong effect of a woman who no longer slouches under the weight of life, but stands tall. Not because she's fighting the world, but because she's no longer afraid of it. This physical openness invites connection. It's not about beauty in the conventional sense. It's about how people feel in your presence. And we must remember beauty is not only how you look, it's how others feel when they look at you. This brings us into the second, deeply related truth. Presence is the new elegance. In a world addicted to distraction, nothing is more rare, and therefore more attractive, than someone who is truly present. To be present means to give your full attention, undivided, to the moment in front of you. When you speak with your eyes and your body, not just your words. When you listen, you're not planning your reply. You're absorbing the other person's meaning with genuine interest. This kind of presence is both a skill and a discipline. There is a mistaken idea that older women become invisible as they age. But this is only true if they themselves stop being present. The moment you withdraw your awareness from life, the world withdraws its gaze. But when you bring your full presence into a room, you become unforgettable. Let me explain this through a real-world example. There was a woman named Elena who worked at a bookstore. She was in her mid-60s, hair silvered by time, her face lined with stories. Customers didn't remember her for her age. They remembered her because when she asked, "How can I help you?" it felt like she truly meant it. She looked into their eyes. She remembered their names. When she recommended a book, it was as if she'd selected it just for them. One day a young man confessed, "Every time I talk to you, I feel like I matter." That is presence. That is beauty. And it has nothing to do with makeup, fashion, or trends. In relationships, presence is what creates the glue between two souls. Without presence, no amount of physical beauty will sustain intimacy. A woman who is mentally elsewhere, who is too self-critical, or who performs rather than connects, she may be admired, but she will not be known. And to be truly beautiful is not to be admired, it is to be felt, remembered, and cherished. Presence has its roots in meditation, but it can be practiced in daily life. Mindfulness, which neuroscience has confirmed increases gray matter in areas of the brain associated with emotional regulation, is one such practice. When you eat, eat slowly. When you walk, notice each step. When someone speaks, look into their eyes, not your phone. When you breathe, follow the breath all the way in and all the way out. These are not glamorous practices, but they awaken your inner light. Over time, people begin to sense something different about you. They don't know what it is exactly, but they want to be around you. You make them feel seen. You make them feel that time has slowed down. In a world rushing by, that is more beautiful than anything else. A woman who is present is elegant in the deepest sense of the word. The word elegance comes from the Latin elegere, meaning to select or to choose. Elegance, then, is not about wealth or fashion. It is about intentionality. When you choose to be present, you are choosing yourself. You are choosing connection. You are choosing to show up fully, without apology. Think of the way a dancer moves, not just through choreography, but with full attention to every movement. There is grace in such motion. The same is true for you. When you move through life awake, attentive, intentional, you become grace embodied. And in relationships, this is transformative. Men are drawn to a woman who can hold a moment, not because she's loud or dominant, but because she is there. Her energy doesn't scatter. Her eyes do not wander. Her mind doesn't leap ahead. She is right here, and it makes others feel as if they are the only person in the world. This is the opposite of the modern trend of multitasking, overthinking, or always needing to do more. Presence says, I am enough as I am, and this moment is enough. That is where dignity lives. That is where power lives. In both stillness and presence, the core message is the same. The most beautiful parts of you cannot be seen. They must be felt. You may not realize it, but every day you have the opportunity to embody the kind of beauty that never ages. The kind that makes people feel safe, valued, and seen. The kind that comes not from performance, but from presence. Not from perfection, but from peace. Let us continue walking through this truth, layer by layer. Each step forward is not about adding something to who you are, but remembering what was always there. Often, beauty is not found by seeking more. It is uncovered by doing less. So breathe, stand tall, and let your stillness speak louder than your words. There is a certain kind of woman who walks into a room and is immediately noticed, not because of her outfit, not because of her age or social standing, but because of the way she carries herself. It's in her gaze, her posture, her groundedness. She has not become invisible with age. She has become more visible in a deeper, more powerful way. And one of the reasons for this is the quality of her eyes. Not simply how they look, but how they see. There is a maturity, a depth, and a kindness in her gaze. This is the third sign of a truly good-looking older woman. She sees people beyond their masks. To see others clearly, without illusion, without projection, is not only rare, it is a form of wisdom. It requires a calm mind and a soft heart. It requires that you yourself have been seen, hurt, healed, and grown. A woman who sees others beyond their masks has learned not to be distracted by performance. She looks past appearances. She listens to the silence between words. She recognizes suffering behind smiles and truth beneath surface level behavior. This gift of perception comes with age, but not with age alone. It comes with introspection. It comes with having looked within and faced your own masks first. In Eastern philosophy, it is said, the one who knows herself knows all others. And that is the beginning of relational depth. There is a difference between being looked at and being seen. Many women, especially in their younger years, are accustomed to being looked at. By men, by society, by peers. Their appearance is often the first point of contact. But being truly seen is different. It is when someone looks into your eyes and sees the soul behind them. And just as you wish to be seen that way, so too must you learn to see others. This becomes a powerful strength in relationships. Because most people, whether they admit it or not, are wearing masks. The mask of competence, the mask of confidence, the mask of happiness. These are often necessary in the world. We wear them to survive. But under the mask is the true self, uncertain, searching, and craving love. When a woman has reached a stage in life where she no longer judges people by their masks, she becomes magnetic. People gravitate to her not because she's easy to impress, but because she sees who they truly are and responds with compassion instead of critique. She makes people feel safe being imperfect. There is a concept in psychology known as unconditional positive regard, a term popularized by Carl Rogers. It refers to the ability to accept and value another person without needing them to be different. This quality heals people, and a woman who offers this kind of perception, who looks at a man, a child, or a friend and sees both their flaws and their beauty, without flinching, offers something increasingly rare. This kind of woman doesn't engage in superficial flattery. She is not impressed by titles, wealth, or appearances, nor is she dismissive of those who are struggling. Her perception is balanced, clear. She knows that even the strongest men carry wounds, that the loudest people are often the loneliest, that the perfect family photo often hides tension and pain. Her clarity doesn't make her cynical, it makes her deeply compassionate. Let me tell you about an older woman named Miriam, who worked as a counselor in a community center. She was in her 70s, long past the age most would consider her visible in society. But anyone who sat across from her knew they were seen in a way they had never experienced before. She had a way of listening that stripped away all pretense. A young woman once told her, "I don't even know why I'm crying. I just looked into your eyes and felt like you knew everything I was hiding. Miriam had learned to see through masks. She had learned to look with her heart. In romantic relationships, this skill is transformative. Many men have never truly been seen. They have been needed, used, admired, or resented, but rarely seen. A woman who can look at a man and perceive the frightened boy inside the strong man, or the hopeful dreamer behind the stoic face, opens his heart without needing to force anything. She becomes not just a partner, but a mirror. And in her gaze, he sees the possibility of being loved not for his performance, but for his presence. This doesn't mean she tolerates disrespect or dishonesty. Quite the opposite. A woman who sees clearly is not easily deceived. She notices inconsistencies. She senses when words don't match energy. Her intuition is not based on paranoia. It is grounded in presence. She knows herself, and because of that, she can read others without needing to guess. From a neurological perspective, this kind of perception activates what are called mirror neurons in the brain. These neurons allow us to attune to the emotional state of another person. Women, in general, tend to have more active mirror neuron systems, which may explain their greater emotional sensitivity. But when combined with emotional maturity, this sensitivity becomes wisdom. It is no longer reactive. It becomes a quiet knowing. This quiet knowing affects how a woman communicates. She doesn't rush to correct or judge. She asks questions instead of making assumptions. She reflects before responding. And because she sees beyond the mask, she can respond to the need behind the behavior. Let's imagine a moment in a relationship. A man comes home irritated, short-tempered, distant. A younger, less experienced woman might immediately take offense. She might mirror his irritation or retreat in hurt. But a woman who sees beyond the mask pauses. She breathes. She observes. And instead of reacting, she says, "You seem like you had a heavy day. Do you want to talk about it now, or just sit together quietly?" This is not submission. It is strength. Emotional strength. Relational intelligence. She is not allowing herself to be mistreated. She is recognizing that behavior is often a surface expression of deeper emotion. And when she gives space for those deeper emotions to emerge, she transforms the dynamic without needing to control it. In this way, a woman becomes not only beautiful, but powerful. Her presence de-escalates tension, her clarity disarms defenses, and her willingness to see others as they are, not as they pretend to be, invites authenticity in return. There is also a spiritual dimension to this ability. In many Eastern traditions, the eyes are considered windows to the soul. The gaze of a meditator, a monk, or a deeply conscious person often carries a certain quality: stillness, awareness, and compassion. These are not traits that can be faked. They come from years of inner work, from having turned inward, faced one's own illusions, and emerged with deeper understanding. A woman who has walked this path may not wear a robe or sit in a monastery, but her eyes carry the same depth. She may be a grandmother, a mentor, or simply a quiet presence in the community. But when she looks at you, you feel known. You feel that she has lived not just years, but lives. In relationships, this becomes a gift. Men often seek peace but don't know how to find it. They seek understanding but don't know how to ask for it. When a woman can offer both, simply through her presence and perception, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she says the right words, but because she makes a man feel that he no longer needs to pretend. He can exhale. He can be human. This doesn't mean the relationship is without challenge. In fact, the woman who sees beyond masks will often trigger growth in those around her. Because when people feel truly seen, they can no longer hide behind their old roles. And this, though uncomfortable at first, is the beginning of transformation. Sometimes, being truly good looking is not about aesthetics at all. It's about the subtle ways you change the atmosphere of a room. It's about the kindness in your gaze, the patience in your tone, the clarity in your perception. And these things cannot be bought, injected, or filtered. They can only be cultivated through a life of reflection, honesty, and compassion. This cultivation requires that you also learn to see yourself beyond the mask. Because if you judge others by appearances, it is likely that you judge yourself the same way. If you only see your aging skin, your changing body, your perceived flaws, then that is what you will assume others see. But when you look at yourself with deeper eyes, with the eyes of compassion, of experience, of truth, You begin to see the real beauty that has emerged over time. And when you can see that, others will too. Let us go back to the story of Eiko, the elderly woman from the Japanese village. She once shared a proverb with a younger woman who was struggling with self-doubt. The mirror that reflects the most light is the one that has been polished over time, not the one that is new. The younger woman looked confused. Eiko smiled and explained, "Your soul is the mirror, and every trial, every lesson, every sorrow, it has polished you. Now you reflect more than just your face, you reflect your spirit. To see others beyond their masks, you must become that mirror. Not a mirror that judges or distorts, but one that reflects truth with gentleness. In this way, your very presence becomes a blessing. In relationships, you will notice something shift. You will attract not those who are looking to use or impress, but those who are seeking depth. You will repel drama, because your perception does not allow it to take root. You will connect not with someone's mask, but with their essence. And that kind of connection does not fade, it deepens. You may find that people seek you out, not to be fixed, but to be understood. You may become a source of wisdom in your community, a refuge in your family, a safe space in your relationship. And this is a kind of beauty that far exceeds the physical. Your value will not be measured by how many men turn their heads, but by how many hearts feel at peace in your presence. So, if you've ever doubted your beauty, because your face no longer looks the way it once did, remember this: the most powerful gaze is not one that demands attention, it is one that offers understanding. And when you look at someone, not to judge, not to compare, not to critique, but to understand, to connect, to see, you are offering one of the rarest gifts in the world. And in that moment, you are truly beautiful. There is a strength that cannot be faked. A kind of quiet power that is not loud, not aggressive, and not concerned with being validated. It is found in a woman who no longer wavers with every opinion, who no longer chases after attention or reacts to every disruption in her environment. Instead, she rests in herself. She is calm, self-possessed, present. To be self-possessed is to live in your body fully, to be grounded in your mind, and to be emotionally clear. It is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. This woman is not cold, she is composed. She is not rigid, she is rooted. And this steadiness, this presence, is perhaps one of the most beautiful things about her. Because in a world full of noise and distraction, she is still. She knows who she is. And others feel this when she walks into a room. From the outside, this kind of woman may not demand attention, but she commands respect. People may not know why they look her way, but they feel something solid about her. There is no desperation in her energy, no neediness in her expression. And this absence of inner chaos creates a magnetic field that draws others closer, especially those who seek stability in a world of emotional storms. Now, to develop this kind of presence is not a matter of luck or genetics. It is a cultivated way of being. It is the result of years of inner practice, of lessons learned through conflict, disappointment, solitude, and stillness. A woman who is self-possessed has faced herself in the mirror, not just her reflection, but her reactions, her insecurities, her triggers. She has confronted them not with judgment, but with curiosity and courage. Eastern philosophy teaches that the goal is not to be unmoved, but to be undisturbed. This is an important distinction. Life will move you, grief, joy, love, loss. All of it will stir the heart. But when you are emotionally steady, you are not thrown off center by every wave. You learn to ride the waves without losing yourself in them. There is a term in neuroscience that supports this: self-regulation. It is the capacity of the nervous system to maintain internal balance, even when the external environment is chaotic. A woman who breathes before she speaks, who pauses before she reacts, who listens before she responds, is showing high self-regulation. This is not just psychological, it is physiological. It is a nervous system that has learned to return to homeostasis. And such a nervous system does not just serve her, it serves every relationship she is in. Let us take a moment to reflect on this practically, within the context of romantic relationships. Imagine a man who has had a difficult day. The world has demanded more than he could give. He comes home with tension in his shoulders, shortness in his tone, and a mind that cannot yet relax. Now imagine he walks into a home where a woman meets him not with interrogation, nor with emotional volatility, but with presence. She is there, not absent, not indifferent, but present. She notices his energy, but does not absorb it. She offers space, not solutions. A warm meal, a soft gaze, and a simple question. Would you like to sit in silence or talk it out? This, to a man who has been fighting all day to be understood, is a sanctuary. Self-possession is not passive. It is profoundly active, but in subtle ways. It listens deeply. It observes without clinging. It responds rather than reacts. And this makes a woman incredibly attractive, not in the conventional sense, but in a deeper, lasting way. Because in her presence, others feel safe. Not coddled, but safe. Because her emotional weather is not constantly changing. She has become her own stable ground. There is a parable from Zen Buddhism about a woman who carried a cup of tea across a room without spilling a single drop, even as others around her stumbled, shouted, and collided. When asked how she remained so steady amidst the chaos, she said, "I keep my eyes on the cup, not the crowd." In life, the cup is your inner state, and self-possession means guarding that state, not from fear but from wisdom. Many women lose this connection with themselves through years of people pleasing, overgiving, and emotional reactivity. They learn to read the room but forget how to read themselves. They know how to keep the peace but not how to feel at peace. And slowly, they lose the center. They become fragmented, part mother, part wife, part friend, part caretaker, but not fully themselves. But the journey back to self-possession is not about abandoning these roles. It is about returning to the one who plays them. The self beneath the performance. When a woman begins to reclaim her emotional clarity, everything changes. She no longer apologizes for her boundaries. She no longer explains her intuition away. She no longer tries to be understood by everyone. Instead, she chooses to understand herself. And in doing so, she radiates something rare, inner authority. You can hear this in her voice. It does not strain. It does not shout. It does not shrink. It is steady, like the sound of water flowing over smooth stone. You can see it in her walk. She does not hurry to prove, nor does she slow to beg. Her steps are deliberate. Her eyes are soft but awake. Her energy is contained, not scattered. In a relationship, this changes the dynamics entirely. Instead of trying to fix her partner, she holds him accountable without losing her peace. Instead of losing herself in his moods, she remains anchored in her own. Instead of waiting to be chosen, she becomes the chooser of how she lives, how she loves, and how she is treated. This steadiness allows for true connection. Because in a healthy relationship, both partners must take responsibility for their own emotional energy. A self-possessed woman does not ask a man to make her happy, but she invites him into her happiness. She does not punish him with silence, but she sets clear limits when her peace is disturbed, and she does not fall into co-dependence. Instead, she co-creates a space where both can grow. Let me tell you a story of Sophia, a woman in her mid-60s. After 2 marriages, one marked by betrayal, the other by emotional distance, she decided to live alone. Not in bitterness, but in reflection. She spent years attending mindfulness retreats, learning Qigong, practicing breathwork, and journaling. Over time, she noticed something subtle but profound. Her reactions became slower, not delayed, but intentional. She no longer needed to defend herself in every conversation. She no longer needed to be right to feel worthy. She could listen to criticism without collapsing. She could express desire without fear. Eventually, she began dating again, and the man who entered her life, a widower named Thomas, was drawn not to her history, not to her appearance, but to her presence. "When I sit with you," he told her, "I feel like I can breathe, like I don't have to perform." This is what self-possession gives you. It gives others permission to drop the mask. It teaches them, by example, how to stay centered. And this is more seductive than anything the eyes can see. In terms of physiology, let's look at what is happening in the body. When a person is self-possessed, their breath is deeper and slower. This stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for rest, digestion, and healing. Their posture is upright but not rigid. The spine aligns, allowing energy to flow. Their voice resonates from the diaphragm, not the throat, conveying calm authority. These are signals of safety, not just to others, but to the body itself. Now compare this to someone who is anxious or emotionally reactive. The breath becomes shallow, the shoulders rise, the eyes dart, The nervous system moves into fight or flight. Communication becomes reactive. Connection becomes strained. The self-possessed woman understands this. She trains her body to return to balance. She breathes before conflict. She grounds herself before making decisions. She uses her body as an instrument of presence. This is not about perfection. There will still be moments of overwhelm, of sadness, of anger. But the difference is how she holds these emotions. She does not drown in them. She observes them. She moves with them. And then she lets them go. Relationships become a place of growth, not just of escape. Because two emotionally steady people can face life's challenges as a team. They can navigate differences without emotional blackmail. They can be triggered without being cruel. They can disappoint each other without destroying each other. And they can love without possession. There is a phrase in the Tao Te Ching, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." The woman who has conquered her reactivity, her fear of abandonment, her hunger for validation, she is mighty. And this mightiness does not look like dominance. It looks like peace. Peace, as it turns out, is deeply attractive. In a culture that glorifies chaos, drama, and passion that burns fast and dies faster, peace is revolutionary. It is not boring. It is the foundation of lasting love. The woman who is calm inside draws in men who are ready, not for games, but for depth. And the most beautiful part, self-possession is not something that fades with age. In fact, it often strengthens. As estrogen levels drop and hormones shift, women often find a new kind of clarity, less emotional fluctuation, more assertiveness, greater independence. Biology and wisdom converge, and what emerges is a woman who is not only free, but radiant. She may wear her age on her skin, but her power is in how she walks through the world. With grace, with awareness, with steadiness. She is not waiting for the world to affirm her. She affirms herself. She is not asking others to complete her. She feels whole already. And in that wholeness, she becomes magnetic, not to the shallow, but to the sincere. There is no need to compete, to compare, or to convince. She simply is. And that is enough. A woman's words are not merely sounds. They are energy released from the inner state of her being. And when that inner state is aligned, when it is calm, clear, and rooted in truth, her words do not just enter ears, they move hearts. They settle in the space between people and create either harmony or dissonance. A woman who has grown into herself knows this. She speaks not to fill silence, but to create understanding. Not to impress, but to connect. And that is why her words carry weight. They do not echo the noise of the world. They echo the wisdom of experience. Such a woman has nothing to prove when she speaks. She does not decorate her speech with empty performance. She is not swayed by the need for applause. Instead, she uses language like a sculptor uses clay, carefully, intentionally, and with reverence for the shape she is forming in the other. Because she understands the sacredness of communication. It is not just talking, it is transmitting presence. And this presence, when it is grounded in alignment, becomes unforgettable. There is an ancient Taoist principle that says, the wise do not speak much, but when they do, they speak with clarity. This clarity does not come from reading books or memorizing quotes. It arises from a disciplined inner life. A woman aligned with her inner truth has a different tone. Her voice vibrates differently. You can feel it even when she says something simple. There's no trembling underneath, no hidden desperation, no manipulation, only truth and grace. Now consider what it means to be in alignment. It is to have your thoughts, emotions, values, and actions flowing in the same direction. There is no internal conflict, no pretending, no separation between what you feel and what you express. When a woman reaches this stage, through deep self-reflection, through silence, through difficult conversations with herself, then her words become instruments of healing and clarity. This alignment shows up in many subtle but powerful ways, especially in relationships. A younger woman might ask, how do I make him like me? But a woman of maturity and alignment asks, does this connection align with who I am? She is not trying to charm a man. She is not trying to decode his silence. She is listening to herself. And because of that, her communication in love is neither desperate nor defensive. It is intentional. Imagine a situation in a romantic relationship where conflict has arisen. Words are tense, emotions high. A younger version of herself might have gone silent, or exploded, or tried to control the situation through blame. But this woman pauses. She breathes. She waits for the storm within to pass. Then she speaks, not to win, but to clarify. When you did this, she says, I felt unheard. And that matters to me, because mutual respect is one of my values. There is no accusation. There is no victimhood. There is ownership. This is the power of aligned speech. It does not create enemies. It invites understanding, and it models emotional maturity. Neuroscience confirms that the way we speak impacts the nervous system of those around us. A calm, measured voice regulates others' stress responses. Rapid, high-pitched, or aggressive tones activate their limbic system, putting them into fight or flight. A woman who speaks from alignment naturally calms the room because her nervous system is self-regulated. Her words feel safe. They have the rhythm of stability. This is not just intellectual theory. It plays out in everyday relationships. Consider this story. Angela, a 59-year-old nurse and grandmother of 3, had spent years learning how to speak kindly to everyone but herself. Her marriage had ended in quiet misery because she was always trying to keep the peace. But peace kept externally often comes at the cost of inner truth. After the divorce, she began therapy, then meditation, then journaling. And one day, while writing, a sentence emerged. I am allowed to speak up without fear. That sentence changed everything. She began practicing small moments of speaking with alignment. When her daughter interrupted her, she calmly said, "Let me finish my thought." When her friend guilt tripped her into doing favors, she responded, "That doesn't work for me today." These were not aggressive statements. They were clear, and over time, the people around her adjusted. Because clarity, when consistent, teaches others how to treat you. One day, a new man entered her life, Glenn, a soft-spoken widower. On their third date, she felt something off in his comment. It wasn't cruel, just subtly dismissive. Her old self would have brushed it aside to keep things smooth. But the new Angela simply said, "When you joked about me being forgetful, it didn't sit well. I value mutual respect even in humor." Glenn apologized sincerely and never made such a comment again. This is the beauty of graceful communication. It doesn't need to destroy the relationship, but it does need to protect your inner truth. And when spoken from alignment, correction becomes connection. In the context of emotional intimacy, a woman who communicates with grace and conviction draws a different kind of partner. She repels those who seek emotional chaos. She confuses those who try to control through manipulation. But she attracts those who are ready for mature connection. Men who are not threatened by clarity, but drawn to it, because in her presence they feel seen, not flattered, not seduced, but truly seen. And to feel seen is to feel safe. What makes this communication so powerful is not just the words, but the embodiment behind them. If a woman says, "I'm fine," but her energy screams resentment, her partner feels the contradiction. But when she says, "I need some space to reflect, let's talk later," and her tone matches her words, then trust is built. Integrity is not just about actions. It is about congruence. Do your words match your emotional frequency? To cultivate this level of grace and conviction, one must engage in what Eastern practices call inner refinement. Not changing who you are, but clarifying the lens through which you see the world. Breathing exercises, such as deep diaphragmatic breathing, help slow down the reactive mind and access the centered self. Mindfulness practices allow the woman to observe her thoughts before they become speech. And gentle movement, like Tai Chi or Qigong, anchors her awareness in the body, so that her communication emerges from wholeness, not fragmentation. The more a woman connects to this grounded state, the less she needs to explain herself repeatedly. Her boundaries are clear not because they are loudly stated, but because they are energetically consistent. Her yes means yes. Her no means no, and there is no guilt in either. Relationships become simpler, not easy, but clean, because there is less confusion, less hidden resentment, less performing, more honesty, more attunement, more mutual respect. There's an old saying, soft words spoken with conviction are stronger than loud declarations shouted in fear. And this is what makes the mature, aligned woman unforgettable. Her softness is not weakness. It is strength under control. It is the velvet glove over the iron hand, not to hurt, but to hold with precision. We must also understand that conviction is not rigidity. A woman of conviction is not close-minded. She listens deeply. She allows others to speak. But when it is her turn, she does not hedge or water down her truth. She says what needs to be said even if her voice shakes. Because her allegiance is not to comfort. It is to clarity. And from that clarity, real intimacy can grow. Think of how rare this quality is in today's world, where communication is often reactive, impulsive, and performative. A woman who pauses before speaking, who weighs her words as if they matter, because they do, is a breath of fresh air. She does not gossip. She does not dramatize. She does not emotionally dump. She expresses. She reveals. And she listens just as skillfully as she speaks. And yes, her beauty shines differently. It is not in the contour of her lips or the cut of her dress. It is in the energy she holds when she opens her mouth. In how others feel when she speaks into silence. There is a weight, not heaviness, but depth. This kind of speech is healing. It reminds others that truth can be spoken without violence, that boundaries can be set without cruelty, that desires can be voiced without fear. In romantic relationships, this becomes the foundation for long, lasting emotional intimacy. Because when a man hears a woman speak with both grace and conviction, something awakens in him. It is a call to presence, a call to respect, a call to step into his own alignment. And if he is ready, he will rise, not because she demanded it, but because her clarity called it forth. This is what real influence looks like. Not manipulation, not seduction, but alignment. And when a woman lives in this way, her words leave a residue. Long after the conversation ends, people remember how they felt in her presence. Not overwhelmed, not judged, but awakened. And that is the mark of a woman who has mastered her inner world. She no longer speaks to control outcomes. She speaks because the truth deserves to be heard. She no longer fears rejection because she has already accepted herself. And she no longer fights to be understood because she has become her own understanding. In this state, even silence becomes powerful because it is not passive, it is spacious. She knows when to speak, and she knows when to let her stillness speak for her. This is the art of feminine maturity, not in age but in essence, not in voice alone, but in vibration. And when that vibration is rooted in grace and conviction, her beauty becomes timeless. Not because others say so, but because her very presence confirms it. Presence is a kind of beauty that cannot be seen with the eyes, yet everyone feels it. It does not need to enter the room. It is the room. When a woman is present, truly present, she brings with her a stillness that changes the atmosphere. People feel safe around her. Not because she says much, but because when she listens, they know they matter. When she looks at them, they feel remembered. And when she speaks, they feel witnessed, not judged, not analyzed, but seen with clear eyes and an open heart. This quality, presence, is not achieved through makeup, fashion, or age-defying routines. It cannot be forced or mimicked. It is not found on the surface, but cultivated in silence, reflection, and the deep understanding of oneself. And for a woman who has walked through the storms of life, who has suffered and softened, who has surrendered and stood again, this kind of presence becomes her quiet crown. In Eastern philosophy, it is said that the mind of the sage is like a mirror. It reflects clearly but does not hold on. Presence is this mirror. A woman in presence reflects the truth of those around her, but she does not absorb their confusion. She sees clearly, and this clarity, when mixed with compassion, becomes magnetic. Think of the last time someone gave you their full attention, not the distracted nodding of politeness, but undivided presence. No phone glancing, no interrupting, just openness. You likely felt more relaxed, more accepted, more willing to share. Why? Because the nervous system responds to genuine presence. When someone is present with us, our breathing slows, our guard drops, the body begins to trust. In a world where everyone is rushed, being deeply attentive is a radical act of love. And a good-looking older woman, not in the conventional sense but in the holistic, dignified, radiant sense, understands that beauty is not in the performance of perfection, but in the offering of presence. When she meets someone, she is not scanning for flaws or seeking to impress. She is simply there, fully, and that alone makes her unforgettable. Presence is deeply tied to the nervous system. It cannot be faked for long. If your mind is agitated, if your breath is shallow, if your heart is guarded, people feel it, even if they don't know how to name it. But when your body is relaxed, your breathing anchored, your mind clear, then you become like a warm fire in winter. people instinctively draw near, not because you entertain them, but because you offer them a space to rest. There is a woman I once met who embodied this so naturally. Her name was Lena. She was in her early 60s, silver-haired, dressed simply in linen and earth tones. Nothing flashy, but when she looked at you, it was as if you had entered a sacred temple. She asked simple questions. How are you? Truly. And then she listened, silently, without rushing your answer. She didn't interrupt. She didn't project her own stories onto yours. She allowed you to unfold, and in her presence, even the most hardened hearts opened. What gave her this quality was not technique. It was the absence of noise in her. She had emptied herself of the need to be interesting. She was instead deeply interested in the person, in the moment, in the truth. This shift, from self-centeredness to selfless attention, is the essence of presence, and it is both powerful and rare. In romantic relationships, presence is even more significant, because intimacy does not grow through words alone, but through attunement. A woman who is present notices when her partner is distant. She feels when something is off, not because she is suspicious, but because she is aware. She doesn't guess. She observes. She asks, "You seem quiet today. What's going on beneath the surface?" These questions, when asked without pressure, open doors. But it's not just about emotional checking in. Presence is how she listens when he speaks of his day. It's how she places her hand on his shoulder and doesn't rush to remove it. It's how she pauses before responding, letting silence breathe between words. This kind of listening is a gift. In a world full of noise, presence is a sanctuary. And the man who experiences it often says afterward, "With her, I can finally exhale." This does not mean that the woman is perfect or always serene. It means she has trained herself to return. Return to the moment, return to the body, return to breath. It is not about never getting distracted, but about noticing when you've left and gently coming back. In Taoist and Zen traditions, there is a practice known as returning to the breath. Whenever the mind wanders, the practitioner does not judge themselves. They simply notice and return. This habit, over time, creates a grounded presence that becomes part of their being, not just in meditation, but in conversation, in conflict, in love. There's a profound story of a widow named Farah who, after losing her husband of 30 years, spent several months in solitude. Not to escape the world, but to return to herself. Every morning, she would sit in her garden, breathing, watching birds, letting her tears rise and fall without suppression. After a year, she emerged, not hardened, but softened by grief, and when she spoke, even strangers listened. One day at a community gathering, a young woman was ranting loudly about her breakup. People dismissed her as dramatic, but Farah walked over, touched her hand gently, and said, "You sound like someone who is deeply disappointed, not just in him, but in what you hoped this would be." The young woman began to cry, not because she was insulted, but because she finally felt seen. That is the power of presence. It cuts through performance and touches the soul. From a psychological perspective, presence is tied to secure attachment. When we grow up with caregivers who were emotionally available, we internalize the feeling of being seen and valued. But many grow up without that, and so, when a woman becomes present with them in adulthood, it fills a hole they didn't know existed. It rewires them. It teaches them, you are not invisible. In romantic relationships, this is transformative. A woman who is present creates space for emotional safety, and when a man feels safe, he reveals, not just facts but his feelings, his wounds, his dreams. But this can only happen if the woman listens without trying to fix or change him. She holds space, not control. And that creates the kind of intimacy that outlasts attraction. Even in conflict, presence is the key. When emotions flare, the present woman does not react immediately. She breathes, she observes, she responds, not from ego but from awareness. She might say, "I notice I'm getting tense. Let's pause before this escalates." This small moment of mindfulness shifts the entire dynamic. It prevents damage. It models emotional discipline. Presence also reshapes how a woman sees herself. When she practices being present, she stops over-identifying with thoughts like, "I'm not enough," or "I'm too old," or "I've missed my chance." She sees these as passing clouds, not the sky itself. And in that realization, she finds freedom. She becomes more compassionate with herself, less critical, more anchored in being rather than in proving. And yes, this internal shift changes how she is perceived, because presence is magnetic. When she walks into a room, people may not know why they turn toward her, but something in them recognizes stillness, not emptiness, but fullness of being. She is not loud, but she is unmistakably here. This presence does not demand attention, it invites it. And in romantic settings, that invitation is profound, because true intimacy requires presence, not just physical closeness, but emotional attunement. To sit across from someone, eyes relaxed, body open, mind unscattered, that is a form of love in itself, and it is also healing. Many people carry invisible wounds from not being heard, not being valued, not being truly seen. When a woman meets them with full presence, it can be the beginning of repair. As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, the most precious gift we can offer anyone is our attention. When mindfulness embraces those we love, they will bloom like flowers. A woman who has cultivated this does not chase. She attracts, not through effort, but through being. She doesn't need to dominate a conversation to be remembered. Her calm curiosity is more alluring than forceful charm. Her silence is more powerful than shallow words. And her presence is not just for others. It is how she cares for herself. She eats slowly. She walks attentively. She washes her face like a ceremony, not a chore. Because she is with herself, moment by moment. And this relationship, with her own aliveness, is what makes her deeply beautiful. It is not the absence of aging, but the presence of being that radiates through her skin. When you look at her, you don't just see her face, you feel her energy, and it tells a story of wisdom earned, of peace chosen, of presence embodied. In this way, she becomes a teacher, not through lectures but through example. Others want to slow down around her, to listen, to open. Because in her presence, they remember what it means to come home, to themselves, to the moment, to the truth. And this, ultimately, is the rarest and most radiant form of beauty. Not manufactured but revealed, not projected but offered, not demanded but quietly powerful. The beauty of presence, the gift of full attention. The quiet transformation of a woman who knows that to be deeply here is the most attractive thing she could ever become. So, what does it truly mean to be a good-looking older woman? It is not found in the mirror's reflection, but in the quality of your presence. It is not measured by the absence of wrinkles, but by the depth of your compassion. It is not maintained by the fear of aging, but revealed through the grace with which you walk through time. You see, true beauty cannot be chased. It emerges, like the moon, quietly, without asking for applause. It is cultivated in silence, tested in solitude, and expressed in the way you love, the way you listen, the way you stand alone without shrinking, and connect deeply without losing yourself. A woman becomes deeply attractive not because she avoids pain, but because she has integrated it. She has transmuted hardship into humility. She does not need to control others to feel worthy. She commands respect simply by being fully herself. In the sacred teachings of the East, it is said, the soft overcomes the hard. A gentle river, over time, carves through mountains. In the same way, your warmth, your steadiness, your awareness, they shape the world around you far more than intensity or noise ever could. To the woman listening now who wonders if she is still seen, still valuable, still radiant, I say this: the world does not need more perfect women. It needs more present ones, more wise ones, more women who walk slowly but with purpose, who look people in the eye, who know how to forgive but also how to walk away, who create peace, first within and then without. You are not in competition with youth. You are in collaboration with time. And time has given you gifts that cannot be bought. Discernment, patience, depth, and truth. Your beauty is not fading. It is changing form. So carry yourself not as someone chasing approval, but as someone honoring her own becoming. Because when you know who you are, when you live with intention and dignity, when your actions match your values, you become unmistakably beautiful. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will be ready to meet you where you stand. That is not your burden. Your task is not to be seen by everyone, but to see yourself clearly. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeking love and start creating it. You stop waiting for validation and begin embodying value. You stop asking, "Am I beautiful?" and begin answering with your life, "Yes, I am," deeply, quietly, unforgettably. Let your presence speak before your words do. Let your silence calm the noise. Let your truth, grounded and gentle, be the light others didn't even know they were looking for. You are not invisible. You are undeniable. And in your stillness, you're in strength. In your sacred slowness, you are the embodiment of beauty that only time can reveal.